All right. Before we begin, I would like to address a couple of matters. First of all, I would like to thank you all once again for being understanding about the sudden change in the event. Secondly, I would like to briefly introduce our club to anyone who is not familiar. Sinabro is a student society for Korean studies major minor students, as well as prospective students who are interested in our program. All right. Moving on, although our event has been moved to an online platform, we would like to begin by acknowledging that UBC Vancouver campus is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Kwikweta'lam people, and we are privileged to learn and study on their land. Here is the agenda for tonight. Following the opening remarks, we will dive right into our 4 presentations and then open the floor for a Q&A presentation before wrapping the night at 6:30 p.m. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to leave your inquiries in the chat and our club president, Renee, will answer or record your question for the upcoming Q&A session. Now, without further ado, we will start with the presentation of our Asian Studies Advisor, Ray Nagaya. Unfortunately, Ray was unable to make it tonight, so I will be presenting on behalf of Ray. So to start off, I would like to introduce the 2 majors offered by the UBC Department of Asian Studies. If you look at the following diagram, our department offers a major in Asian Area Studies, so ASAS for short, and a major in Asian Language and Culture, ASLC for short. Our Asian Area Studies program focuses more on analyzing the contemporary and historical culture of South, Southeast, and East Asia. So it's the general Asian continent. In contrast, our Asian Language and Culture program focuses more on analyzing the literary and the historical culture of one specific area of focus. And students can choose between China, Chinese literature, Japan, Korea, and South Asia. ASLC students will need to pursue an advanced study in both the language as well as the cultural courses related specifically to their specialized area of focus. Overall, each of our majors include a mix of both language and cultural learning. However, if you're looking for a more heavier focus on culture, Asian Area Studies is your best choice because ASAS looks at multiple Asian countries. As a result, there is less emphasis on language studies, so students are only required to pursue up to 12 credits in one Asian language. If you're looking for a more advanced language study, Asian Language and Culture is your best choice since ASLC looks at only one specific Asian country. That is your specialization. As a result, there is heavy emphasis on language study and students are required to pursue up to 27 credits in the language they choose as their specialized area of focus. Fortunately, there are no specific admission requirements to join any of our major or minor programs. Major or minor programs. So you'll be able to declare your major through the Student Service Center once you've completed your minimum of 27 credits, which is generally after your first year. And now moving on to minors. It's basically the same structure as the major, except the Asian Language and Culture minor has a Hong Kong option, which was newly launched last year. To minor either Asian Area Studies or Asian Language Culture, you must complete a minimum of 30 credits. So in terms of Asia Area Studies, that looks like 6 out of the 30 credits must be from a lower level Asia course. 18 out of those credits must be from an upper level Asian course, and only 6 out of the 30 credits must be from one Asian language of your choice. A minor in Asian Language and Culture looks a little bit different. So 12 out of the 18 credits, 12 to 18 out of the 30 credits must be from an Asian language course that you specialize in. And of those 12 to 18 language credits, 6 credits must be an upper level Asian course. The remaining credits must be from any Asian culture-based course. And of those 12 remaining credits, 12 must be from an upper level Asian course. So again, the Asian language course is more focused on language, and Asian area is more focused on culture. Therefore, there's a big difference in how many Asian courses and how many language courses you have to take. As an introduction to Korean studies info session, I want to now focus specifically on the credit requirements for majoring in Asian language and culture, area of focus Korea. In order to major in ASLC Korea, you must complete a certain number of Asia credits, a certain number of language credits, and a certain number of research-intensive credits. Looking first at the Asia credit load, students must complete at least 21 to 30 credits of Asia or A6 courses. So 6 out of those 30 Asia credits must be from a lower level Asia course. 12 to 21 out of those 30 Asia credits must be from a 300 level Asia course. And only 3 out of the 30 Asia courses must be from a 400 level Asia course. But it's really important to note that at least 9 credits of your upper level Asia courses must be related to Korea. Moving on to our language credits, students must complete at least 15 to 24 credits of any language courses. Oh, sorry, not any, but only Korean courses. So 6 out of the 24 language credits can be from any East Asian language course, including Chinese, Japanese, and Cantonese. However, the rest of those 24 credits must be from Korean. So 6 to 15 out of those 24 language credits must be from a 300 level Korean course. And only 3 out of the 24 language credits must be from a 400 level Korean course. Finally, students must complete at least 3 credits of an Asian or Korean research intensive course. What's interesting about our major in ASLC Korea is that you can be very flexible with your degree, especially when it comes to selecting your 300 level Asia courses or your 300 level Korean courses. What I mean is, as long as you complete 12 credits of your 300 level credit load, as long as you complete 12 credits of your 300 level Asia courses and 6 credits of your 300 level Korean courses, you can break up your credit load however you prefer. For example, if you wish to take more Asian courses than Korean courses, you can take up to the maximum 21 credits of 300 level Asia courses and the minimum 6 credits of the 300 level Korean courses. If you wish to take more Korean courses over the Asian courses, you can take up to 15 credits of 300 Korean courses and the minimum 12 credits of 300 Asian level courses. One last thing to highlight about majoring in ASLC Korea is the research intensive courses. The name sounds a little daunting, but research intensive courses are simply deeper analyses into your specialized area of focus. There are a couple details to note about research intensive courses. Number 1, please note that we do not always offer all intensive courses, but rather 5 or 6 are offered each session, and these courses typically happen in the winter session. Number 2, students can only take one research intensive course, which specifically fulfills this requirement and this requirement only. So here is a few courses that have been approved as a research intensive course. However, if you're unsure about whether a course is considered a research intensive course, you can always refer to the UBC calendar or contact Ray for more information. Right. The credit requirements for minoring in ASLC Korea are practically identical to majoring in ASLC Korea, except it requires less credits. So in order to minor in ASLC Korea, you must complete a certain number of Asia credits and a certain number of language credits. So looking first at our Asia credits again, students must complete a total of 12 to 18 credits of our Asia courses. 6 out of those 18 Asia credits must be from a lower level Asia course, and the following lower level Asia courses do not have to be related to Korea. However, 12 to 18 out of the 18 Asia courses must be from an upper level Asia course, and these courses have to be related to Korea. Looking now at the language credits, students must complete at least 12 to 18 credits of upper level Korean courses. So here is a graphic which summarizes the credit requirements for majoring and minoring in ASLC. The red here represents the Asia credits. The red represents the Korean credits. The Korean credits. The blue represents the Asia credits. The small numbers at the top here represent the total number of credits you must complete for each requirement. Right. I understand that this was a lot of information, so if you have any questions about your requirements or degree navigator, please don't hesitate to reach out to Ray for more information. Drop-in advising is offered on Tuesdays and Wednesdays through Zoom at 1 to 3 p.m. We will also be providing you slides after the presentation, so don't worry about taking notes or like copying down everything. And that's it for me. I will pass the mic to Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Sarah, and I'll be presenting about the major in Asian languages and culture with a focus in Korea. So I think one of the largest questions concerning the major is why choose the major? Although I can't speak about other people, personally, the biggest reason for me choosing this program was because I wanted to learn Korean. Initially, I only had interest in the Korean language, but as I started taking more courses, I came to enjoy and appreciate the culture of Korea. And I know of other students who chose this major because they wanted to find a job in Korea or eventually live in Korea in the future. And so they took this to supplement their Korean knowledge. I think a huge advantage of majoring in Korean in an academic environment is that it does allow you to learn about the culture and the history more easily alongside your language learning than if you were to simply try to learn Korean outside of an academic environment on your own. As mentioned earlier, a major in the Asian languages and culture Korea focuses more on the language aspect and differs from the Asian studies program in that you only focus on one specific area. And so as for requirements, you can structure your learning according to your preferences, as said before. If you are interested in more language aspect of the major, then I recommend thinking about taking upper level Korean courses on top of the 3 years of the languages, the basic 100, 200, and 300 level. If you're more interested in the culture, there are many courses that focus on various parts of Korean culture. Or they mention Korea within their larger learning breadths of Asia. So in the next couple slides, I have listed the Asia courses and other courses that relate to Korea. This slide is specifically those that are related directly to Korea with all of the full course names. I think earlier the slides only had the numbers. One note is that the ones on the left with the darker color are the ones that are run more frequently, while the ones on the right in the lighter shade are the ones that may not be run all the time. And as you can see, there's courses on history, literature, culture, as well as international relations. And then on the next slide, there'll be some courses focusing that on the broader Asia, but they do cover Korea within their courses. Personally, I've only taken a couple of the courses on this list. So I'm not 100% certain, but from reading the titles and the names of the courses, I can assume that most of them will touch upon some part of Korea within their term. Many of these courses are not run on a regular basis, so do keep an eye out for them when they are offered during the course selection period, because usually if it is shown, it'll only run maybe once that year and maybe not again during your time here at UBC. So don't hesitate to register. And then, of course, as a major or minor student of ASLC Korea, you'll have to take some Korean language courses. From the 100 to 300 level, as many of you will already know, our language acquisition classes, where our amazing teachers here at UBC do a fantastic job of teaching you the basics of Korean, as well as helping you cultivate your speaking skills in classes that run 4 times a week. However, once you do get to the 400 level Korean classes, they are less focused on teaching you Korean, but provide more of a guidance for your individual pursuit in Korean learning through either the forms of translation or through learning older forms of Korean. Aside from the Asian or Korean courses that I've mentioned, there are also a couple of other courses at UBC that may be related to Korea in some way. Again, these courses are not always offered by the respective department, so please check their availability during the course selection period. The first one is from the anthropology department, the ethnography of Korea. And then the second one is a music course where you learn Korean drumming. Music 165 is offered most terms, except there are usually other ensembles, such as the Balinese gamelan, and I think African drumming is one of them. The Korean drumming is found on the music department website, but I think this is more of a quote unquote phantom course. It pops up and goes away quite often. And then the last section would be the Asian, Canadian, and Asian Migration Studies, or ACAM courses. These courses focus more on the migration and migrants of Asian descendants into North America in a more modern framework. But they do allow you to maybe bring what you've learned in other Korea-related courses into a more modern and local context. So I do recommend taking some of those courses. All right, and then for the last part of my presentation, I'd like to talk about some course recommendations that I have. Me personally, I'm more interested in the language aspect of the program. So most of these will be related to the language. Asia 300 is a course that covers the various writing systems and forms that have existed in East Asia. You'll learn the origins of writing and its adaptation to new settings within East Asia, as well as a more technical topics such as classifications and definitions of what writing is. It not only covers China and Japan, but incorporates countries such as Korea, Tibet, Mongolia. This course also provides a great introduction to the culture of writing and its importance in the way pre-modern East Asia developed. And then the next one would be Korean 351, 352. These are the introductory courses to Hanja, or what is more commonly known as Chinese characters. Although not used in the present as much, historically Hanja were used to write down and record the Korean language before Hangul came about. So many vocabulary in Korean has a background in Hanja, although it may not be as obvious now. So in the course, you'll learn the Hanja as Korean, such as the Korean names and sounds that they have, and using the additional material accompanying the 300 level Korean textbook. So you learn the Hanja of the vocabulary that have Hanja origins, called Hanjaol, that appear in the text passages in each of those lessons in the textbook. Students also have the Interline Reader website available to them, which has the entire Hanja textbook online, as well as some tools to help you learn them. Knowledge of sinographs will definitely help you elevate your Korean vocabulary and enhance your understanding of the Korean language in general. On a similar note of supplementing your Korean language, Korean 420 is a course that if you are interested in the language is a course that I highly recommend. You can see in the name of the course, this course introduces you to Middle Korean and Early Modern Korean through a text called the Samgang Hengsilto, which is a Confucian primer from the 15th century. Although when you start taking this course, nothing makes sense, and that is normal, because the language has changed so much since then. But as you learn Middle Korean, you learn the ways in which the language has evolved, and through observing the way certain words have changed into their modern versions, you gain a better understanding of the way the modern Korean language works, and hopefully will greatly enrich your Korean understanding. So that's it for me. I'll pass the baton on to Daphne.
Hi, hopefully you can all hear me, but yeah, my name is Daphne and I'm a minor student in the Asian Languages and Culture Korea minor. And so I'm just going to quickly introduce to you what the experience of the minor is and what the benefits of doing a minor in ASLC Korea is. So, Joni, can you do the, thank you. Yeah, so I think the major reason that you might want to consider doing a minor is if you're already taking a lot of Korean courses. If you're already trying to learn Korean, you're interested in doing a lot of Korean courses, you can fill most of the credit requirement doing just kind of the basic conversation courses. So if you're really enjoying those classes, you're already taking them, it's a really good idea. As a minor, it has a lot more flexibility than the major. You really get to pick and choose which Asia courses you are interested in, which I think is really beneficial because it allows you to kind of align your minor better with your major. There's a pretty wide variety of courses to pick from, and you only have to take 4. And so that gives you a lot of flexibility. Depending on your major, there are some chances to double dip. I can only speak for linguistics majors because I am a ling major. But if you are also a ling major, be aware that Corn 420 does count for course outside linguistics credit. And I don't know what programs other arts majors have, but I know that, I mean, language learning in general, I think is really applicable widely. But yeah, so if you're already taking core courses and you've started learning about culture, or you've decided that you're really enjoying your core courses and you want to take more, it's a good idea to add the minor to get extra, like you get some more out of your language learning. And additionally, having to take more courses about culture and history, I think really enrich and help you get a deeper understanding of the language and the way that the language kind of grows and develops and is used on a person-to-person basis. So I think that's really valuable. Now, if you are thinking about it, but you're not sure if you're going to do it because maybe language classes are a little bit daunting, that's very reasonable. And like they are daunting. They're a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to learn a new language. But I can say that in my experience among the language courses I've taken at UBC, and I've taken too many, the Korean language program has some of the best community and some of the best peer support available for, if you're struggling with classes or if you are just struggling with certain aspects of language. There's so much support available in the Korean program. The other thing I want to note is that for the minor, unlike for the major, fourth level core courses are not required, which I think is important if you're really just want to focus on your conversational abilities and your actual language acquisition. The fourth level requirement, that's going to be your more literature stuff. So if you're not really into that, then the minor is a good alternative to doing a whole, major program. The other thing to note is if you already want to go on exchange and plan to take language courses while you're on exchange, generally those courses will transfer over and count towards the requirement. Generally, no promises, but that is also an option. So depending on what you're already planning on doing, depending on what your major is, it can be a really, really good opportunity to minor because it's a lot less work than the major and you still get a lot out of it. It's not a throwaway minor. It's very valuable in my opinion. Yeah, okay, anyway, speaking of exchange, we'll pass it off to Renee, who will tell you more about the exchange program.
Hi everyone, my name is Renee and I am in my fourth year majoring in ASLC Korea. I am also the president of Korean Studies Student Society, aka Shinaburo. And I'll be introducing the exchange opportunities and specifically the one I went to, which was the Yonsei International Summer School. So to begin with, there are basically two types of Go Global experience available at UBC. There is the summer abroad and the regular exchange options. So for the summer abroad, just like its name, it happens in the summer, and the deadline for applying summer abroad is usually the second week of December. For the exchange programs, there are 4 options. There's term 1, term 2, full year exchange, and split year exchange. Term 1, term 2, and full year are the same with UBC terms. So term 1 begins with UBC in September, and term 2 is January. Now, split year is a bit different. It begins with UBC term 2 and goes through the term 1 of next year. Korean universities, their school years actually begin in early March. So split year might also be a good option if you want to start your study at the same time with those Korean students. There are 2 deadlines for these applications. The second week of December is the deadline for first round. So for term 2, term 1, term 2, full year, and split year exchange. And the deadline for second round applications is by the first week of May, which can only be term 2 or split year. And there is usually a very limited availability for that. So when you apply for Go Global, no matter you're doing single term, full year, or summer term, you need to choose your top 3 universities. And unfortunately, Songyungwan is the only university that provides split year exchange. And there will also be a non-refundable $415 administrative fee when you apply. Now, I'll be sharing my own experience on the summer abroad in Yonsei University in 2022. So the Yonsei International Summer School has 2 options in terms of the course length. There is a 4-week and a 6-week program. I chose the 6-week program just because I wanted to stay in Korea for a bit of longer time. And the minimum course load is 1 course and the maximum is 3 courses. The credits are equivalent to UBC courses, so 3 credits per course. The on-campus housing in Yonsei is not guaranteed and has a very, very limited availability. I remember the year I went, there were about only 10 single rooms and like 20 spots for double rooms as well. But there was a record high number of exchange students that year, so yeah. I tried to apply as soon as the application opened, but of course did not get into it. Now, the courses provided by Yonsei International Summer School includes academic fields, including art and humanities, Korean studies, business and economics, social sciences, Korean language, East Asian studies, and science and technology. There is also a cooperate internship program, which is 7.5 weeks long, and you're required to enroll in at least 1 course in addition to the internship. The internship itself is 2 credits and graded on pass or non-pass basis. There will be 105 working hours required for the internship, and the application is only open to the students who have already received a letter of admission from YSS and has a very low acceptance rate. I also did try to apply and got rejected, unfortunately. And I think the acceptance rate for the YSS internship program in 2022 was 24%. Although I did not get into the program, but I still encourage you to try because it is a very good opportunity for you to experience internship in Korea as well, alongside with studying. Now, for the last part of my presentation, I will move on to some tips while you're abroad in Korea. Firstly, the most important thing, visa. Visa is not required for Canadian citizens for the summer exchange, but you do need to apply for K-ETA, which can be applied very easily online. There is also no alien registration card required as long as you're staying for less than 90 days. And actually, you cannot apply for that if you're staying for less than 90 days. And because Yonsei only provides a limited amount of on-campus housing, I do suggest booking accommodations on Airbnb. And of course, if you have enough budget, hotels maybe, but it might be a bit too expensive. In terms of banking, foreigners are unable to make banking accounts as it requires the alien registration card. And I personally just brought enough cash and used my Canadian debit or credit card occasionally. And for the phone plans, again, most phone plans require the ARC, but prepaid SIM cards work and they can be bought from some convenience stores or mobile stores. And that's it for my part. Now we'll be moving on to the Q&A sessions. If you have any questions, feel free to turn on your mic or just put it in the chat.
Right. In case there were no questions, we have prepared a couple of potential discussion topics. But again, as Renee said, please feel free to raise your hand or type your questions in the chat. So based on the RSVP responses, it appears that most of you are interested in gaining information about these exchange opportunities. So most of the questions are geared towards this. For your information, all of our presenters, including myself, have gone on exchange. Daphne and I have studied in Sungkyunkwan University. Sarah has studied in both Seoul National University as well as Yonsei University. And Renee, as you have heard right now, studied at Yonsei University. All of our presenters are very knowledgeable in this area, so please use this time very effectively, and we'll welcome any questions. Yes, Erica.
I'm just wondering for the minor for like the language requirements, like I'm taking 200 Korean now, could that like contribute to the requirement, or do I have to take like 300 level courses in the future?
So the 200 will count towards the minor, but it won't count towards the 300 level requirement. if, I don't know if you can go back to the graph slide. I think it's easiest to explain the credit requirements that way.
But
Oh, yeah. So if you look at the corn requirement, it's 6 credits of 300 plus and 6 credits at any level.
at any
So 200 will count for the 6 credits at any level,
Okay.
but it won't count for the 6 credits at 300 plus. So you still have to take 300.
okay, but it's not like it's not
And yeah,
like it's not like above 300 level that I have to take, right?
you have to take two courses at or above 300 level. So you could take, what is it, 300 or is it 301, I don't know what the course codes are anymore. But yeah, you could take third level, you could take third level and Hunza. That'll get you all more credits than you could possibly need. But 200 will count, but 200 will only partially count
Like for
towards the requirement. You still have to take something at third level
okay,
or above.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I see in the chat that Irie and Neva asked for summer exchanges. Are there any other options for housing rather than Airbnb hotels? Are there any host family options? So yes, there are other options other than Airbnb hotels. There's like Goshiwon, which is like a very, very tiny single, couldn't even call it a studio, just a single room that has the basic accommodation of like a bed and a washroom. Sometimes it's a shared washroom. It's a lot cheaper than Airbnb and hotels, of course, but the living condition is not as good as those ones. I did live in Goshiwon for about a month and I did not want to stay for any longer. And in terms of host families, I have not searched for that, but when I just try to think about it, I think there's a website called homestay.com, which you can find homestays, and not too sure about like the pricing and reliability for that though. Yeah.
Yeah, to add on to that, there are options for things like host families, but that is to your discretion. The school won't neither UBC nor your host school in Korea will help you in that sense. You are gonna have to do that on your own. So just do keep that in mind.
Okay, and Laura has the question, on exchange are marks given as percentage or pass fail? I think for mine, we did have a percentage, but when it's transferred, when the credit was transferred to UBC, it just shows pass or fail. And that's for summer term, so I don't know if Cheon-Hyun.
Yeah, it was, so I think that's a global policy, but your transcript from your host university will just, in most cases, transfer over as credit, no credit. So as long as you pass at your host university, you should get credit from UBC. But of course, if you have more specific, more detailed questions, I think Go Global is probably better suited to answer transfer credit questions.
Okay, and then we have the question about what sort of career opportunities or future plans are possible with the ASLC Korea major. So that is something that we are also trying to figure out ourselves. Yeah, so of course, teachers or translation are like the two most straightforward career that we can think of right away. But I would say, for example, there might be chances where you can work in, for example, Netflix Korea or like those kind of international corporations. They sometimes do need a lot of translation or marketing kind of field. I am not too certain about that, but yeah.
I do think there are options in just any sort of field, in the sense that if that company wants to go into Korea, or if it's a Korean company that wants to come into North America, those companies are always looking for people who have both of the language under their belt, and so that it'll help them with the translating or, you know, international kind of jobs. So the learning of a language and that on your as a major is definitely going to help you if you want to go into any company that if they do have a branch or want to go into Asia.
To add on to that, that's why we generally recommend that if you are majoring in ASLC Korea, maybe minor in another field like maybe business, accounting, marketing, or English in order to use your Korean languages as basis, but also have this another area that you're knowledgeable about. So you have two talents there, two competencies.
Okay, now next question from Mackenzie. Do credits earned on exchange count toward major requirements? For example, if I take a Korean 300 or Asia 300, 400 equivalent, I'm exchanging. So yes, it does. There is actually I think the credit search portal or something. You can search for the courses from your exchange school. It's usually equivalent to one of the UBC's requirements, and even it's not, as long as you have the syllabus, you can always email the Asian undergrads and then you can ask them for that.
Yeah, and I'll just add that if you're already really confident in Korean, courses taught in Korean will, no matter kind of what they're about, transfer over as core and fourth, I think with few exceptions. So that is another thing, like if you need to fill the core and fourth requirement for your major and you also want to go on exchange, there's more options on exchange probably than there are at UBC for fourth level Korean.
But
So that's another thing to consider.
just to add on to that, summer exchange, at least at Yonsei University, are like all the courses are in English. So if you want to take courses in Korean, then maybe consider about going exchange on regular terms instead of summer. And yes, they sometimes do. The degree navigator does count those exchange courses as electives sometimes automatically. So you have to just email them and let them know about that. Any tips for applying to Yonsei Summer School? Actually, Yonsei Summer School is not that difficult to apply, I would say. It does say there's a grade kind of requirement, but it wasn't that high, and because it's a summer term, it's less competitive. Okay. Anya's question, which upper level Asia courses are more academic writing, essay focused, as opposed to those that have more test quiz focused content? Interesting.
Taewon, would you mind going back to the slide with all of the Asia courses? So most upper Asian level upper Asia courses would probably be 300 to 400 levels. Just the nature of the 300 and 400 level classes are usually more like essay focused usually. Could you go back to the slide with all the Asia courses, Giovanni? Oink. The one in my slide section, the one with the directly related to Korea one. Yes. So academic writing, essay focus, test quiz focus. So from my experience taking from the courses I've taken, obviously the ones that have literature in them will probably be more writing essay focused. Things like Korean 327 or 317 was also quite writing focused. Yes, so because of just the nature of 300 level, 400 level courses at UBC in general, they are tend to be essay focused, especially in like your finals. But some of them are projects, such as 327. I think 307 was also a project for mine when I took it. And so that will depend on the teacher as well. But most of these will be essay writing focused. Some of them do have tests within the term, like kind of like topic tests. So that is something that you'll have to go to class, see the syllabus, because UBC doesn't show you the syllabus beforehand.
And then the next question is on-campus housing the norm for year-round exchanges?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the school. I think depend how much on-campus housing is actually available to exchange students. But as far as I know, it's not the norm at any of the universities we partner with. There's tends to be limited space, no matter what school you go to. But it will depend on when you go and which school you go to. It's, I think each on the Go Global Exchange page, they go into more detail on each university's page about what housing opportunities there are. Generally speaking, though, it's far from guaranteed. I don't know if I would call it the norm. So that is something to keep in mind if you're considering going on exchange.
Also, one downside of on-campus dorming is unlike UBC, where all dorms are on campus or near campus at least. Korea is a very small country and the campuses themselves are pretty small compared to UBC. So sometimes the residences are actually like 20 minutes or maybe at most some people I've seen 25 or even 30 minutes on bus ride from their residence to the housing. Residence to the campus. So there are some downsides to actually going on campus housing. I wouldn't rely just on campus housing or just any residences provided by the partner university. And also what the biggest downside of residences that they provide is they will kick you out as soon as exams end. They don't provide a lot of lenient time for you to like maybe settle down a little bit. Maybe if you're staying in Korea for a little bit longer than the study period, they don't allow that time to find extra housing or anything. So keep that in mind when you're applying for housing as well.
Also, Korea has a great transit system. They have lots of buses, they have lots of subways. Most schools do also have free shuttle buses from a local station to campus itself. Some buses actually just routes go in through campus and around, at least for Seoul National it was so. So you can get on and off of campus quite easily, even if you aren't dorming. So that is you don't have to rely too much on the on campus dorms. Are there any other questions? Would you like to discuss those other questions on our slide or?
Oh, we also wanted to inform you that we have a UBC Korean Studies YouTube channel where you can find Renee actually conducted a few interviews when she was a work learn student for
Last year.
Yeah,
No,
last
2
year.
years.
So I'm not exactly. Do you want to talk about it, Renee?
Sure. So there are actually 3 interview videos about exchange Go Global experience. One is on Yonsei, like regular exchange. One is on Songkyungwan, and one is actually me during the summer exchange. So yeah, if you think about some questions that you want to ask, like after today's info session ends, of course you can always message us and then ask the questions, or you can find the videos and maybe some questions might be already answered there. And I see one more question here. Mackenzie asks, is it difficult to find year-round housing?
How was everyone else's experience? Personally, I was in a share house. So my contract itself was a year long. So for me, it wasn't that difficult.
Um, it it can be difficult. I think there's a lot of luck involved, as there is with searching for housing anywhere. Um, I think it helps if you have, you know, local friends or family, or at least like a Korean friends or family who can help you, because there's a lot of Korea doesn't have any anti-discrimination law, and so you being a foreigner, if you're a foreigner like me, can make things a little challenging when trying to rent. Um, so keep that in mind. It's not as easy to just show up and try and rent something. Um, the availability is kind of going to depend, I think, a little bit on what school you go to and how close you want to be to that school. Because all of the universities we partner with are in Seoul, but they're not all in like central, heavily populated areas. It's a little bit. We can, if that's, if everyone's planning on going exchange and is really concerned about that, we can try and get together more resources. But generally speaking, it's a lot of luck, as it is
And
anywhere, I
also,
think.
if you are looking, I did a share house that was my contract was directly with the person. But I do know some people who rented or like found actual office towels, like apartments, studio apartments. From what I know, you do need a registration, like an alien registration card, a foreign registration card, as to create a bank account. And usually those bank accounts are required for you to find rental spot, like housing. And so there is a bit more of a stuff you have to do before being able to rent. So in those cases, you should think about going to Korea a bit earlier so you can get all of that stuff figured out before trying to perhaps look for housing, or just have the time to look for housing in general as well. And
Yeah,
then
and I would just
yep.
add about I would just add about the bank accounts. What does depend on what school you go to. At Sungkyunkwan, the bank branch that's on campus will open a bank account for you with your passport. Um, and I think other schools also have some systems like that. I've heard. I can't guarantee. But so that is something that you'll need to research a little bit.
I've also heard that Yonsei does allow that, so I did try, but I was rejected right away. So I think they probably did a few years ago for Yonsei, but probably not anymore.
For Seoul, I know they said they did. When I went, the person at the counter was confused, but they did allow me to make it. Say because I had actually applied for the foreign registration card and it was on its way, and so I told them that, and they said, okay, once you get your foreign registration card, come back and we'll upgrade your account to an actual proper one. And then I think Mackenzie, so share house. I found a share house personally on a website I forgot the name of, but I can tell you if you're wondering, I can let you know later on. Generally, these share houses are also kind of you have to do on your own. You have to find on your own. Um, so it won't be through the schools. It won't be through other kind of support sites. It'll just be one-on-one. And often, the one I found was accepting foreign students. Some places don't. Also, maybe the people who are the owners or the people running the place may not be as good at English. And so that conversation might have to be in Korean, things like that. But yeah, there are a bunch of sites to look for share houses. But yeah, be careful of scams.
So more opportunities to interact with local people there. I believe there are usually buddies program in most universities throughout the school terms. Not, I don't think there's any for the summer term though, but do you guys want to talk about that a bit?
In about the buddy program, I do know all of, I think the summer one, at least when I went, there was, but a thing to note is that it is very much foreign students coming together with more Korean students. So there is a larger community of foreign exchange students as well within that. If you are looking for more interaction with local Korean people, if you're taking a full year or regular term exchange, you can take English classes. Most of those students at universities have to take English classes, like classes taught in English as part of their degree. And so their English classes will have a bunch of local Korean normal students. And so in those classes, you can also talk to them. There's discussion sessions and you can mingle through that. And also clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You can go ahead, Dylan.
Songyungan University also had a buddy program. But I would say in terms of buddy programs and like just any courses oriented for exchange students, Yonsei University is one of the best. They don't only have the most experience with exchange students, therefore they have lots of different programs that the students can interact in. Songyungande's buddy program is relatively good. They will assign one Korean student for at least maybe 4 or 5 exchange students from different countries. So you do get to interact with a Korean student in that way, but it is fairly limited. Also, I wanted to say that if you want to interact with local Korean people, it's really based on you and how much you put yourself out there. So Korean people are generally a little bit timid when it comes to interacting with foreigners. So if you approach them first, they are very friendly, but there's a very unlikely chance that they will approach you first. So if you want to join a Korean club, then you will have to take the initiative to sign up for the club and ask for maybe English instructions and maybe interact with like an English speaker. So it's really based on how much you want to interact with Korean people and how much you put yourself out there.
Okay, next.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I was just going to
Go
add
ahead,
on to
Chloe.
that about clubs is that at Songkyunkwan at least, a lot of the clubs do accept exchange students and are very welcoming of exchange students. But one thing to be aware of is that the clubs only have like a club day and only recruit new members in the first term, in their first term, in end of February, beginning of March. So if you go on a UBC year exchange and you want to join clubs, you do have to be really on top of it. And, you know, a lot of the time there isn't like a number you can message to if you're interested in joining the club, but not all clubs will accept new members in the fall. So otherwise, clubs are a really great way to get involved with, you know, local students. Just be aware. Yeah.
Okay, next is Leon's question. Is there a 400 level directed studies in Asian studies that can count toward the requirement?
By directed studies, do you mean the ones that don't have like a specific title and are like, they just say directed studies in? Is that? 400 level directed studies in
Oh,
Asian
like
studies.
like find a prof and talk with them. So like a supervised course? Is that what you meant? Yeah. I think most Oh, you mean 400 Asian studies courses? Sarah, do you want to take on that?
I don't have a supervised what is it? Supervised studies on this list. Nor the next one, I think. But obviously depending on the content that you do in that supervised studies session, you can, I guess, argue with, you're gonna have to talk to arts advising or Asian studies advising to try and see if that will count or not. Usually you can probably, the professor that you're gonna do this supervised studies with can probably also answer that question and see if that can work towards that. So that is something you're gonna have to talk to them about again, because it is a supervised study and you can, it's a bit of a more broader section. If it's usually literature, they usually do take it, I think. But yes.
Okay. And next, did you guys happen to get vaccines? I did get my vaccine. I think, yeah, I got my, by vaccine, do you mean COVID shot? If you meant COVID, yeah, I did get until the second dose before I leave for exchange. Travel vaccines, I did not.
I don't think there are any particular travel vaccines unless you're planning on spending a lot of time in the countryside that are recommended. I just want to make sure you're up to date on all your regular vaccines you would want to have here, and you should be okay. There is a little bit more information on that provided by Go Global, I think, on the university exchange pages, as I recall. Could be wrong. I think so. Anyway, but no, I didn't have to get any extra vaccines, just the ones I.
Yeah, I think also go check the Canadian government website for that, for traveling, because they do have the information for certain vaccines and things that they might need. I do know that if you are planning or thinking of applying for dorms, they did have a section where you had to take a certain shot and have that printed and submitted with your application. I can't remember the exact vaccine that was for, but that was something that I saw. So you double check with the your partner school's dorm application for those.
And then we have, are there any upper year Korea-related Asia courses you would say are must-takes before you graduate? Can we go back to that slide again? Wait, is it this? Never mind. I personally thought Korean cinema was pretty interesting. You basically get to watch 1 or 2 movies per week, I think, and write analysis about that. And I did enjoy that class quite a bit. Yeah, as well as the 367, the contemporary Korean culture. The content itself is also quite interesting. It introduced like Hallyu or Korean K-pop idols and things like that. Any add-ons to that?
Personally, I think although this is very history heavy, taking I think it's 317, The Rise of the Korean Civilization, that one covers, I believe, the history from like way back when to more, I think, right before the colonialization. And so you go through the history, although it is a lot of history, you do go cover through it, and that will probably supplement in when you're doing literature classes or when you're doing other stuff. It does help to contextualize what you're learning in the time frame. So that is a good one.
If literature is your strong suit and you're like a fast reader and you love analyzing stuff, 452, Asia 452 was a really interesting course too. If you especially like small scale classes, like my class only had 6 students, and so it was basically like a seminar course. So you're with your professor and your 6 classmates, and you're just discussing one novel per week. There's no tests. It was just an in-class essay. So if you're interested in those kind of literature courses, I would recommend Asia 452.
And how did you feel in terms of safety when on exchange, or if you travel around during your exchange period? Honestly, Korea is a really safe country, I would say, in terms of security. So a lot of people just, when you walk into cafes, you see people leave their stuff on the table and just walk away, and then come back like after 20 minutes or so. No one ever touches those stuff. So yeah, I think I've never felt unsafe while I was abroad in Korea.
I don't obviously I look very Asian, and so in that sense, there wasn't that much of a like visual alienization of towards me. I do want to say, obviously, in any country, if you are out late in an area where there are drunk people, that is a different kind of safety. Just be aware of yourself. Because if you don't know, Korea has a large drinking culture. And so, yes, just be aware of that.
Yep, especially if you're concerned about like that kind of safety, then I would say try to avoid um Friday nights at home day and you should be good.
Or go with friends,
Yep.
large groups. And did we travel? I think a lot of people traveled within Asia. I personally traveled to Japan. Um, it's and Jeju, that's not technically outside of Korea, but Jeju is also a very popular destination. It is significantly cheaper than it would be from coming from here in Vancouver. And so if you are going for exchange on a full year, you do have breaks in between your terms. And so I would say definitely take advantage of that and the cheaper prices, and go abroad because it's fun.
Mackenzie, also have a question on prescription medication on exchange. I personally did not have need any prescription medication. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
So I did have a prescription medication. If you are going for a full year, on top of your foreign registration card, you are automatically added into the Korean health insurance program. And so you do have to pay that every month, but you do get a discount as a student with your visa and stuff. So it's about, from when I was there, it was about $70 per month. So because of that, you can go into any clinic and get cold. If you have a cold or cough, you can go get looked at, and you just pay maybe like $3 for that whole session plus medication and stuff like that. You do have that insurance. You are part of the insurance program, so you can go and get medication and things like that quite easily. Your schools also do tend to have clinics on campus, or at least I know Yonsei and Seoulde have hospitals on campus. And so if you have anything, you can go into their clinics. I know somebody who I think broke a nose while they were on exchange, and they went in and they were like, okay. So yeah. Usually they're okay. You can get them quite easily. As long, again, doctors may or may not speak English. So yes, be aware of that.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add to that is that if you have any prescriptions for like, depression or anxiety or ADHD, you have certain medications, you'll want to check and make sure those medications are available in Korea before you go, and if they can be brought into the country. because the laws surrounding what medications are legal or prescribable are a little bit different. And depending what the medication is, you might want to ask your doctor here if they can give you a lot to bring with you, because you may or may not be able to get a hand on those in Korea.
Okay, and then the next one is if I do go global and take a basic Korean course again in Korea, still get a transfer. Okay, I just searched up for example, Yonsei's basic Korean courses, and the code was like 1013. It says basic Korean 3. And on the UBC transfer credit portal, it says it's equivalent to Korean second year. So Korean 200 level.
Yeah, so it would depend on the actual content you do in those classes abroad. I think for Yonsei, I know they do like 8 or so different levels of Korean. So, and I think Seoulde also does about 6. So depending on which one you take over there, the way it transfers back might be different. So check your transfer portals.
And I think we kind of just touched on Rachel's question, right?
Oh, well, mental health support is a different ballpark, I think. You have physical health issues, I think it's very easy to get seen. Mental health issues are going to be a lot more complicated. It's not really discussed or well covered, I think, in Korea. So there are some counseling services for foreigners that you can find, but in general, unless there's been some kind of great tragedy that's occurred in Korea recently, it might be hard to find support directly from the university. Although I think the exchange advisors can generally point you to places, but I don't know of anything directly provided by the schools that I've heard of. So.
Okay. And do all of the universities require Korean proficiency tests? For my case, for Yonsei International Summer School, it did not require any Korean proficiency tests. And I think it was only if you're taking the Korean courses, you needed to do the placements test on the first day of the term.
Yeah, I believe it's only Seoul National University that outright requires a Korean proficiency test. I think most of the other universities, if you're applying for language courses, there will be a preliminary assessment of your skills to see what level they should place you at, but it's not like they don't require you to take like a standardized test. They'll have their own in-house mechanism for assessing you. The only school that will require you take like a standardized test just to do exchange is Seoul National, I believe.
I believe it says so on the application, but it's only if you're planning to take courses in Korean. When I went, I didn't actually ever get asked. I did provide it either when I was applying for my visa or when I was applying for the school. But yes.
Yeah, and that is a difference because I took courses in Korean at Samkyungkwan and they do not require any kind of assessment. You're allowed to sign up, and then if you turns out you can't speak Korean, you should probably drop because you'll fail. But that's kind of it. That's they're very hands off about it versus some of the other schools. So that will depend on what school you enter.
And we have one more question. I am a first-year student considering pursuing the Asian language and culture minor. I'm thinking of taking Asia Korea related 300 level courses over the summer. Do you think these courses will be too difficult for someone who has only finished their first year? Actually, I don't think the year level matters that much for taking these kind of courses. It's because it's not language courses. It's really about your own interest, and 300 level courses aren't honestly not all courses are equivalent in difficulties. Some courses are easier for some people, and some courses might be harder for the other people. So yeah, for example, I would say the Korean contemporary culture one is not that difficult to take, even if you're only in the first year.
Yeah, I think although they say 300, most of these Asia courses don't actually have requirements or prereqs. And so the assumption is that anyone taking the course will be just new to the entire topic. So it is quite easy for you to take. I know some first years who've taken 300 courses of Asia, and they were fine. They did struggle in the sense of like they weren't used to university style academic learning, but content-wise, it should be pretty okay as long they're mostly just talking about concepts and things like that. So it's not necessarily language, it is all in English, and so, and you do have a bunch of people from other programs that are in the class as electives, so it's not too bad. You'll be fine.
Just wanted to add on that a big advantage of our program is generally all our Asian courses are pretty small compared to like psychology courses or like computer science courses. So you have more of an opportunity to interact with your professors or your instructors. So if you are having trouble with any of the content that they are teaching, we were all advised to approach your professor. They love talking to you. Based on my experiences, all of my lecturers, all my professors are amazing people, and they love when their students come and visit them at their offices. So please go approach them. Our Korean lecture teachers are so kind too. So if you're ever having trouble, please talk to them. All right, if we don't have any further questions, we are going to slowly start wrapping up our info session for today. Once again, thank you all for coming out tonight and understanding of the sudden change in events. We may be planning another info session in the coming term, specifically maybe geared towards global exchange opportunities, because a lot of you were very interested in it. So please keep your eye out on that, as well as please, if you're interested in the program, consider maybe joining our Sinaburo Club. We are a community, we are a student society, and we are wanting to create a community so we can share these kind of informations and be a good relevant source for you to gain as much knowledge as possible in your academic journey. I think that's all for me today. Anything else you want to add, presenters? All right, thank you all for coming out tonight, and enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.